Greetings, brethren. Hausburger Donkey here again, and I actually got around to finishing my terrain finally. I'm really happy with it. I think it looks great. Pretty much the first terrain I've made in, I want to say at least 10 plus years. Yeah, so there was a bit of relearning because some of the stuff I haven't done since it was like 20 years old probably. So probably even 15 years actually, yeah. So yeah, long time for not making any terrain, but it was really, it had to be done now. I really need something to play Oathmark, and yeah. So let me give you a closer. There you go. I'll give you a closer look at some of the pieces. It's not some of these rock formations. And I did talk about this when I started making them, but these are actual rocks. I think that nothing looks more like a rock than a rock. And when you put some paint on them, and I was thinking about putting some moss on them as well, but I think I'm gonna leave that off. I might do it. I might add it later. I don't know. But yeah, these are just rocks that I picked up in the forest. You know, any sort of what do you call that in English? Like the sort of, you know, small rock paths. I don't know. Yeah, and they're perfect. So just have a look around. See if you can find any nice ones. It's always good to have them with interesting edges. Like this one has an interesting edge here, and this one is very interesting as well, and this one. And they just, yeah, they make for great terrain. And all I really did, once I glued them on the base being made of plastic card, is I glued them on, and then I put small bits of milliput on there to sort of give an uneven texture to the ground. As you can see, it's a bit uneven. And I primed the whole thing black, then painted all the earth bits brown, painted the rocks gray. I gave the whole thing a dirty, dark brown, blackish wash, and then dry brushed up the dirt with Vallejo model color flat brown, or flat earth, I think, and Iraqi sand, basically the same way I do my bases for Oathmark. And the rocks with Vallejo model color light gray, and then white with a little bit of light gray mixed in. And I just, with the white gray, I basically only touch up the edges to just give it a highlight. Then I put on the colored sawdust that I made myself. You can see the homemade flock. That's on most of the base. And once that was dry, I removed the excess, then went over it with a Vallejo matte varnish through the airbrush. You can do this with a varnish rattle can. You don't have to have an airbrush. It just keeps the stuff on there a bit better. And I tend to find with diluted PVA glue, it sometimes changes the color of the flock a little bit, and I don't like that, so I prefer to use the varnish. Yeah, and then I just put on a bunch of tufts that I had lying around, just to make them look even nicer. Yeah. More of the rocks. On this one, I used a bit of foam turf bits that I had lying around, and I actually like the effect. I think on future terrain pieces I'm going to do a little bit of this before I put on the flock, because I actually like how it turned out. Only did that on this piece, was just like a test. I just wanted to see what it looks like. This one is actually quite a heavy base. The advantage of using actual rocks and having heavy terrain pieces like that is it means the plastic card doesn't warp, because it does sometimes warp a little bit, as you'll see in a little bit. This one is just some hedges. I don't know, if you take hikes and stuff, you'll probably have seen that hedges only grow in perfect rows when human plant them. Usually you just get these sort of clumps of hedges. And so that's how I just like how that looks on the table. It's just a bunch of clump foliage, PVA glued in chunks onto it, then added a bit of more PVA glue on top and another layer, and then I soak the whole thing through with diluted PVA. And if there's any bits that aren't properly sticking on, I go in afterwards with some super glue. Like on this one, I had to go in with some super glue to get it down. And the other bit here, I made a bit of a mix with a stone and a tree. This is actually the only tree I made myself. And also a nice big hedge. On this one, I added a little bit of a different foam flock on top, and I actually like the effect as well. Then I made a whole bunch of trees, and I'm not gonna go through all of these. Basically, these are ready-made trees from a German company called Heki, H-E-K-I, and they are great, and they're not too expensive. I have probably something like 30 of these larger trees, and then I have a bunch more that are smaller that I'll be using for 15 mil, and I paid maybe $40 for them, like 40 euros. So yeah, I think they're totally worth the money. They look great. They're not the silly cylindrical ones. I'm not a big fan of those. Yeah, and all I did is I put them on green Renedra bases, but underneath the actual plastic tree here on the base is also a washer, just to give them a little bit of weight, so that when you put them down, they don't fall over. And I like that, because trees, especially the tall ones, they, like this one, like this birch tree, they have the tendency to topple. And so I like to put the washer underneath, and then they don't. And they just sort of wobble around, and it's much harder to topple them. Yeah, this is the birch tree. They come sort of really badly painted white as well, and there's some of the primer on the bottom. But I didn't really give a shit, if I'm honest. I think it looks fine. And once they're just in a clump together as trees, then nobody will care. And yeah, this is the two sort of different kinds of trees that I bought. These are sort of more fruit trees, I think, and these are just sort of birch trees and beeches and all this other sort of kind of tree. I think this is I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. It's just kind of a dark beech tree, I guess. Maybe it's supposed to be like a kiefer, whatever the heck that is in English. I don't know. But yeah. And then lastly, I have a forest base. If I can get it. Yeah. And in the other video, I did show that I painted on circles to make sure that I remember where the trees go. And what I've done, let me push that out of the way. I can show you better. What I've done basically is, in the process, all the milliput, I went around the base circles as well. And once I take some trees off, you can see I basically left the spaces blank of tufts. So the tufts are kind of around them. And then once you put on the trees in the spots where they're supposed to go, like so, then it kind of just all blends together, and the outlines disappear. And it still looks kind of right. Now, when you use plastic card, and you use a lot of, and you make it a big base like this, there will be a bit of a wobble, sadly. It just kind of warps a little bit, even though it doesn't really warp with moisture. It just, through working it and touching it and lifting it and stuff, it just kind of warps over time, which is a bit annoying. But if you're brave, you can also try to bend it the other way, and then it might stop wobbling so much. But I also put on some rocks on this one, so it is a little heavier and doesn't bend too much. And I don't know, once it's on the table, it's not really going to matter that much that it's a little wobbly. But if you care about this, then don't use plastic card and make smaller bases when you use plastic card, and instead just use MDF. All right, that's it. Made, as you can see, there's lots more trees that I made. I wanted to get as many of the trees done as possible in one go because, oh yeah, I should have said, when what I do to these trees to make them a little bit more durable is I soak them through with thinned down PVA, and then I hang them upside down over a bunch of newspaper so that they can sort of, you know, drip off a little bit. And then once they dry, they're tougher. They're not hard completely, but they are a bit tougher, and it means the foliage stuff doesn't come off so quickly. So you can actually handle them, and it doesn't constantly flock all over the place. So yeah, now I just need to make some more forest bases, because I have, I think, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 more trees. So that should be at least 5 more tree bases, because this will definitely be the biggest forest. So the other ones will be 3 or 4 trees. So I'll be able to make quite a few more forests. And then next, I think I'm gonna go with some buildings. I also want to make some palisades, some dark agey palisades. The I also had some wattle fencing planned, but I didn't actually like it too much how that came out. I don't know. I wasn't really enjoying the look of it, and I saw that Renedra actually make plastic wattle fences, so I'm just gonna get those. They're a bit lower in height, but if I want something larger, I'll just make some hedges, maybe some stone walls, or perhaps just palisades. So yeah, that'll be that. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little look at my fairy forest terrain. I wanted to make it look as fantasy-y as possible, so I added lots of flower tufts and just made it look nice and, I don't know, almost like the Shire, which I can then fight over with my goblins. Yar. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Hello to all of my new subscribers that came my way from the lovely recommendation of Von Ketteringham. Thanks for that, mate. And yeah, stay tuned for more Oathmark, because that's pretty much all I'm gonna do this year, I think. I really want to get through as much of my Oathmark as possible this year, and then next year I'm gonna move on to a new project, probably. I definitely want to finish my Goblin army and my Free People's army, and maybe make a start on some of the dwarves that I have for Oathmark. And I'm not gonna move on before that, so it's definitely gonna be at least the rest of the year for Oathmark. And probably also more terrain. Alright, thanks for watching, see you guys in the next video, and take care.